Let's begin with something that might make you uncomfortable. Hate doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't always shout or slam doors. Sometimes it wears a mask of indifference. Sometimes it hides in the quiet. You might think someone hates you when they're yelling at you, but often it's when they stop acknowledging your humanity altogether. Hate isn't just anger. It's the slow, cold decision to treat you as if you don't matter. When someone repeatedly dismisses your needs, steps over your boundaries, or acts like your voice is an inconvenience, that's not just disrespect. It's a quiet form of cruelty. And the most dangerous part? It looks like nothing at all, but inside something essential is being erased. Your sense of worth.
Number 1.
Chronic disregard is contempt in disguise. Imagine you draw a bright red boundary with a colleague. No calls after dinner because 7-year-old Mia waits every night for her bedtime story. The colleague nods and says, "Absolutely, family first." Yet 3 evenings later, your phone vibrates at 8:05 p.m. They need just 5 quick minutes. You oblige, assuming clarity will solve the problem. A week passes. The pattern repeats. Soon the calls stretch to 15 minutes, then 20. With every interruption, the story you promised Mia grows shorter, your patience thinner, and the colleague's excuse more casual. Something sacred is being stolen, not by accident, but by repeated choice. Stoicism teaches that external events are neutral, yet Epictetus warns that tolerating repeated disrespect corrodes the soul faster than a single spectacular insult. Chronic disregard is not forgetfulness. It is an ongoing decision to place your humanity on mute. It usually arrives softly. An eye roll slipped between sentences, habitual lateness that always costs you, or jokes that bruise yet hide behind playfulness. These small fractures are early tremors signaling a larger quake beneath the surface. Because the injury is subtle, you tell yourself not to overreact, and contempt slips in, brick by unnoticed brick. Oprah Winfrey offers a living illustration. Early in her career at a Baltimore news station, producers waved off her story pitches as too sentimental and criticized her delivery as too emotional, while male anchors received applause for identical passion. At first she tried harder, arriving earlier, rewriting scripts, softening her tone, believing more excellence would earn respect. Nothing changed, then suddenly clarity arrived. The problem was not her competence. It was their contempt for a style that centered empathy. Consequently, she walked away, built her own platform, and transformed daytime television. Oprah's exit was not rebellion. It was a refusal to let someone else redraw the map of her worth. Now you might argue, but they always apologize afterward. Doesn't that matter? Seneca answers firmly, "He who is perpetually forgiven learns nothing but audacity." Apology without adjustment is manipulation dressed as remorse. Unlimited grace invites unlimited trespass. The colleague who keeps calling after dinner might send cheerful emails the next morning, praising your dedication, hoping to blur your memory of the violation. Kind words without behavioral change are counterfeit currency. Stoic practice demands that we judge actions, not intentions, because intentions live in clouds and actions leave footprints. If the footprint keeps crossing your line, no apology, however eloquent, can erase it. Meanwhile, the ancients challenge us to audit our circles with the same rigor we audit our own judgments. Ask yourself, who honors the boundaries you whisper, not only the ones you shout? Who adjusts without being asked twice? Conversely, who treats your time as optional and your energy as communal property? Picture the painted lines on a basketball court. They never move to accommodate an overly aggressive player. The player must adapt or commit a foul. Likewise, your personal boundary lines exist so healthy, play can happen inside them. If someone keeps stepping out of bounds and insisting the court expand, the problem is not your paint. It is their entitlement. Modern science corroborates what the Stoics intuited centuries ago. Dr. John Gottman's landmark marriage study found that eye-rolling, a gesture most dismiss as trivial, is one of the strongest predictors of divorce. That tiny upward flick conveys contempt, and where contempt grows, respect withers. Relationships rarely implode overnight. They erode through micro-gestures that accumulate like sediment. Therefore, even small dismissals deserve serious attention. Minimizing them today mortgages tomorrow's trust. The Stoic sees the seed in the sapling and decides early whether to water or uproot it. So, what do you do when chronic disregard knocks at your door? First, name the pattern plainly. You agreed not to call after 8, yet you did. That disrupts my family time. Next, state the boundary with a clear consequence. If you call again during that hour, I will not answer. We can speak during office hours. Then enforce the boundary without apology, because enforcement is the only language contempt understands. Remember, Stoicism is not passive endurance. It is active alignment with virtue. Virtue here means self-respect, the cornerstone upon which external respect is built. Every time you enforce a legitimate boundary, you cast a vote for your own worth and train others to read the ballot correctly. When you practice unapologetic clarity, two outcomes surface quickly. Either the other person adapts, revealing capacity for respect all along, or they retreat in offended silence, proving your boundary merely exposed what was already true. In that moment, their withdrawal is information, not rejection. You are free to invest attention where it compounds in mutual honor. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Boundaries apply the same rule in reverse. If it is not respectful, you will not receive it. Ultimately, chronic disregard is contempt in slow motion, an acid drip that hollows granite. Yet granite sealed with principled resolve does not erode. Protect yourself with clear lines, swift enforcement, and the unshakable belief that your humanity is non-negotiable. Do this consistently, and what corrodes lesser relationships will polish yours into something unbreakable, calm, sharp, and unmistakably stoic. Your daughter's bedtime story will be read, your dinner will be peaceful, and the colleague will either learn respect or hear your voicemail greeting. Either outcome is victory, because the purpose of a boundary is not to change another person, it is to protect the person who sets it.
Number 2.
Weaponized vulnerability, betrayal with a velvet glove. There's a kind of betrayal that doesn't leave bruises. It doesn't shout or slam doors. It whispers, it nods, it listens, just long enough to take notes. And then, in your most unguarded moment, it strikes. This betrayal doesn't look like betrayal at all. It looks like a conversation, a safe space, a soft shoulder. But behind that softness is calculation. Someone takes the part of you that was hardest to reveal and quietly stores it, not for safekeeping, but for sabotage. This, the Stoics would say, is the most insidious kind of harm, because it mimics connection while planting the seed of destruction. Seneca once said, "A sword never kills anybody. It is a tool in the killer's hand." The same is true for secrets. The wound doesn't come from the truth you shared. It comes from the hand that turned it into a weapon. What makes it even more painful is this. At the moment of sharing, you trusted. You believed your courage would be met with care. You thought your truth would be held, not handled. But Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. And the subject here is your soul. Let's ground this in something real. Think about Robin Williams, a man who lit up the world, who brought laughter to millions, yet battled darkness most people never saw. In rare interviews when he spoke about his pain, some media outlets twisted his honesty into headlines. Comedians mocked his struggles, The very act of bravery, speaking up, was turned against him. That's weaponized vulnerability on a massive scale. But this doesn't just happen to public figures. It happens every day, in marriages, in friendships, in families. You open up, you tell someone about your fear, your shame, your trauma. They seem to receive it. Maybe they even thank you. But later, they use it in an argument, in a joke, in silence that punishes. So why does this hurt so much? From a Stoic perspective, it has to do with the nature of trust. Trust isn't given freely. It's a moral choice, a leap of the will. When you share something vulnerable, you're not just giving information. You're handing over power. Epictetus warns, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. And that's the sting. When someone twists your truth, your first response is often shame. I should have never told them. I was stupid to trust. But that's not clarity. That's self-punishment masquerading as wisdom. The Stoic path offers a different view. It tells you this. You were not wrong to trust. They were wrong to betray. Your vulnerability wasn't a weakness. It was an act of inner strength. And most importantly, the betrayal doesn't define you. It reveals them. It shows you where not to plant seeds next season. But here's the trap many fall into. After betrayal, they close off. I'll never open up again. I'll never be that soft, that real. Marcus Aurelius would challenge that with force. The best revenge, he wrote, is to be unlike him who performed the injury. That means, do not let betrayal turn you into what hurt you. Don't let it steal your softness. Stoicism isn't the suppression of emotion, it's the discipline of emotion. So yes, protect your peace, but don't turn your peace into isolation. You can be guarded without being closed. You can be discerning without being bitter. Now take inventory. Who in your life listens without judgment? Who holds space without trying to fix or use? These are your people. These are your protectors. As the Stoics understood well, one honest, loyal friend is worth more than a crowd of acquaintances who only applaud when you perform strength. Vulnerability is not a performance. It's a truth offering, and it's sacred. Treat it that way. There's another layer we don't talk about enough. When someone weaponizes your truth, it doesn't just hurt in the moment, it rewrites the past. You start to question whether the moment of intimacy was real. Were they listening, or were they collecting ammunition? That's what makes this betrayal so corrosive. It poisons your memory, and to heal, you have to reclaim that memory. You say to yourself, what I shared was still real. It mattered. My courage was true, even if their care was false. So what now? First, name the betrayal. Don't call it a misunderstanding, call it harm. Second, set a clear boundary. You no longer have access to the parts of me you twisted. Third, and this is the most important, forgive yourself. Do not punish your past self for hoping. That version of you was brave enough to try, and bravery, even when it doesn't end in applause, is never wasted. In the end, Stoicism teaches not that we avoid pain, but that we confront it with dignity. Betrayal is real, but so is your ability to choose your response. You can shut down, or you can stay open. With discernment, you can armor up, or you can reinforce your values and keep walking, stronger, clearer, more you than before. Your vulnerability is not the problem. Their betrayal is. Your softness is not the flaw. It's the proof you're alive. So protect your heart. But let it beat. Filter access, not feeling, and walk forward, not bitter, but wiser.
Number 3.
Joy sabotage, when your light threatens their darkness. There's a unique kind of heartbreak that hits you not when someone mocks your pain, but when they ruin your joy. You know the moment. You finally achieve something meaningful, something you've quietly worked for, maybe even prayed for, and you walk into the room glowing, only to have someone you love pull the emotional plug. Their words don't have to be loud. Sometimes they don't say anything at all. But you feel it, the chill, the resentment, the shift. Your joy becomes a mirror, and it reflects back everything they've refused to heal in themselves. This is what we don't talk about enough. Not everyone is happy when you're happy. Not everyone claps when you win. Not everyone celebrates your healing, especially if they're still bleeding from wounds they won't even acknowledge. And here's the truth. That kind of sabotage isn't always obvious. It doesn't come with insults. It sneaks in sideways, through backhanded compliments, sarcastic jokes, comparisons, or even silence so loud it hurts. For example, you share that you finally got promoted at work. Instead of congratulations, they say, "Oh, that's cool, but did you hear what so-and-so got?" Or they throw in a reminder of your past failure. "Let's hope it goes better than last time, huh?" Or they change the subject, leave your message on read, or minimize it with a joke. And just like that, your joy shrinks. Not because it wasn't real, but because it wasn't received. Stoicism teaches us to hold joy lightly, but not hide it, Marcus Aurelius wrote. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. So when someone tries to dim your light, the real battle is internal. Will you adjust your brightness to make them comfortable? Or will you stay rooted in your worth, even if it burns their eyes? Think of Maya Angelou. Her early work, poetry about identity, trauma, and strength, was initially dismissed by critics who said she was too emotional, too raw, or too political. But she didn't shrink. She didn't soften her truth to make others comfortable. Instead, she rose again and again. With each book, each interview, each poem, she chose to protect her joy rather than seek approval from those threatened by it. That's not arrogance. That's emotional discipline. That's Stoicism in motion. Now let's look deeper. Why does joy sabotage hurt so much? Because joy, unlike pain, is vulnerable. When you express it, you're showing the world something sacred, proof that healing is possible, that effort matters, that good things do happen. So when someone reacts with dismissal, it's not just disappointing, it's destabilizing. It makes you question your own right to feel good. But Epictetus reminds us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Translation? You don't need everyone to get it. You just need to keep growing anyway. It's tempting to internalize their reactions to say, maybe I am bragging, maybe I should keep this to myself next time. But that's exactly what resentment wants. It wants you to dim so they don't have to face their own unhealed potential. And once you start shrinking to accommodate someone else's bitterness, you enter dangerous territory. You start editing yourself, not out of respect, but out of fear. And that's when joy begins to rot from within. So what do? You pay attention. You notice who cheers for you when you're quiet. You notice who claps when you're not in the room. You ask, who mirrors back my light without trying to steal it? Because those are the ones who are safe. Those are the people who deserve access to your sacred moments. The Stoics would say, protect your peace like a temple. Not everyone deserves to walk barefoot on the floors of your joy. Seneca reminds us, associate with people who are likely to improve you. That includes people who don't compete with your healing, people who can hold your happiness without seeing it as a threat, people who've done the work themselves and therefore aren't rattled when you start rising. Let's be brutally honest. Resentment is a quiet form of hate. It simmers in silence and shows up through tiny jabs meant to puncture your pride. And over time, it changes you. You start hiding your wins to keep the peace. You celebrate less loudly, you glow less brightly. But here's the Stoic truth. Peace that requires you to shrink is not peace, it's performance. So instead of asking, why are they doing this? Ask a better question, why am I still giving them access? Joy is not something you need to defend. It's something you need to discern. Not everyone can handle your evolution. Not everyone can witness your rise without mourning their own stagnation. And that's okay. Your job is not to carry their disappointment. Your job is to carry your joy with grace. You don't owe anyone an apology for shining. You don't have to dim just so they don't squint. You were not born to tiptoe around unhealed egos. You were born to grow, to rise, to rejoice, and the ones who are truly for you, they'll rise with you.
Number 4.
The silent treatment, disconnection as control. Silence can be sacred. It can be healing, grounding, even profound. But when silence is used not to reflect, but to punish, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes emotional warfare, and it's a tactic that doesn't leave visible bruises, but leaves deep internal scars. This is the kind of silence that pulls away not to process, but to punish. It's not, I need space. It's, I will withhold myself until you submit. Let's get one thing clear. The silent treatment is not healthy distance. It is emotional manipulation. It's control wrapped in quiet. It doesn't scream, but it stings. It doesn't confront, but it cuts. And worst of all, it makes you doubt yourself. You begin asking questions that sound like, did I do something wrong? Should I apologize? Even when you're not sure what for, that is its power. Confusion, and confusion is the enemy of clarity. The Stoics were warriors of clarity. Epictetus taught that any person capable of angering you becomes your master. Now imagine someone capable of making you beg for acknowledgement, beg for presence, not because you were wrong, but because they withheld affection as punishment. That's not a communication issue. That's a power game. Let's take a real-world example. Michelle Obama once shared how in her early marriage, she and Barack had vastly different conflict styles. She wanted to talk things through. He preferred silence and distance. But over time, they learned that silence, if used without clarity, creates more division than peace. So they built the habit of returning, talking, naming what was happening instead of letting resentment speak in their place. That's the difference. Space with intention builds strength. Silence without purpose builds resentment. Now, why is this tactic so destructive? Because it weaponizes one of our most basic needs, the need to matter, to belong, to be seen. When someone gives you the silent treatment, they are saying without saying, you don't exist to me until you do what I want. It's emotional exile, and the person administering it often watches as you spiral, because that's the point, to make you work for reconnection, to make you responsible for repairing a bridge they burned. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. That applies here more than ever, because the temptation is to play the same game, to withdraw too, to retaliate with more silence. But Stoicism calls us to a higher response, to see things clearly and respond with strength, not spite. Here's the Stoic move. Name the pattern gently but firmly. You say, I recognize when silence is used to punish, I won't participate in that cycle. That's not confrontation, that's self-respect. That's clarity. And with clarity comes freedom. You see, people who love you might get angry, they might need space, they might even go quiet for a while to gather themselves. That's okay, that's human. But they will return, they will talk, they will make the effort, because love isn't proven by silence. It's proven by presence, by repair, by mutual effort. Let's take another public figure. Brené Brown, in her work on vulnerability and connection, she emphasizes over and over that true connection requires engagement, not withdrawal. In her own life, she shares how when conflict arises, she doesn't let silence drive the wedge deeper. She leans in. She names the fear. That's courage. That's love in motion. The silent treatment, by contrast, is the opposite of courage. It's cowardice masked as emotional intelligence. It's not setting a boundary. It's avoiding accountability. It's not taking space. It's creating suspense, anxiety, and instability. And over time, it erodes something vital, your sense of self. Why? Because you start measuring your worth by someone else's mood. You chase their attention. You read their silence like a code. You take responsibility for their withdrawal. And the longer you stay in that cycle, the more you teach yourself that love is conditional, that you must earn your place, that your voice is too much, or worse, not enough. But the Stoics teach us otherwise. Your worth is not up for negotiation, not by silence, not by withdrawal, not by absence. You are not a puzzle to be solved by guessing games. You are a person, and any relationship that forces you to beg for recognition is not a relationship. It's a performance. So what do you do when silence becomes a pattern? You draw the line. You say, I am available for conversations, not control. I welcome space for healing, not punishment. And then, if the pattern continues, you adjust access. You stop offering full presence to people who use absence to manipulate. And here's what most people don't realize. Repeated silence isn't just absence, it's an erasure of emotional safety. When someone you love continually withdraws and refuses to communicate, they're not giving you peace. They're pulling the rug out from under your stability. And that erosion, slow and subtle, often makes you think you're the problem. But as Seneca reminds us, he who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary. You cannot keep living inside someone else's unpredictable vacuum and call it love. So instead of shrinking, you reclaim your ground. You say, I see what this silence is doing to me, and I choose to respond with clarity, not confusion. You name it. You stand firm. You remember your peace is not negotiable, and your presence should never be held hostage. Because ultimately, love is not proven in easy moments. It's revealed in conflict, in repair, in return, in presence when it's hard to stay. Anyone can disappear. Anyone can go silent. But someone who truly sees you, who values you, will come back to the table, not just for closure, but for connection. Or the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And no one who truly loves you will ever use silence to erase you.
Number 5.
Public humiliation, a glimpse into hidden rage. Humiliation is never just a joke. It's not harmless teasing. It's not just being real. Public humiliation is a weapon, a precise, deliberate act meant to strip someone of their dignity in front of witnesses. It doesn't happen by accident, it's calculated. And when someone does it to you, they're not just making a statement about who you are. They're revealing something much darker about who they are. Let's slow this down. You're at a dinner table, or in a group chat, or maybe in a meeting at work. Everyone's talking, things are flowing, and then, out of nowhere, someone drops a comment. It's sarcastic, or cutting, or worse, wrapped in laughter. You feel it. The sting, the tension, the shame. Everyone else chuckles nervously, unsure what to do. You pretend to laugh too. You try to make your face unreadable, but inside something folds. And later, when you finally bring it up, you're told, you're too sensitive, don't make it a big deal. This is how public humiliation works. It masquerades as humor while hijacking your humanity. It puts you on a stage you never asked to stand on, under a spotlight you never consented to. And Stoicism teaches us to expect insults, but not to accept them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears." But this doesn't mean ignore it. It means don't swallow the poison. Don't internalize what was never yours to carry. Real-world example? Let's talk about Elon Musk. Whether you admire or criticize him, There's something telling about his public posture. Early in his career, he was mocked relentlessly for his appearance, his voice, even his vision for electric cars. He was humiliated in interviews, openly doubted by peers, and told he was ridiculous, but he didn't respond with public vengeance. He responded by building, he stayed in motion, he let the noise pass, and he let results speak. And that's the Stoic way. Not silence from fear, but silence from clarity. Here's what most people miss. Public humiliation isn't just a comment, it's an exposure. It's someone using their words to remind you, and everyone watching, that they have power over your image, that they can control how others see you, if only for a moment. And that moment can stay with you for years. Seneca once warned, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." But when someone humiliates you in front of others, your mind becomes the battlefield. You replay the scene, you dissect the moment, you feel not just embarrassed, but destabilized, because you thought you were safe. You thought that space was supportive. And now, even if only for a second, you question your belonging. So what's the Stoic response? First, recognize the tactic. Humiliation is not communication. It's domination. It's not feedback. It's theater. It's not correction. It's cruelty wearing a funny mask. You don't argue with it. You don't perform damage control. You name it silently and you choose not to dance. Because when someone tries to make a spectacle out of you, the most powerful move is stillness. Next, you return to your center. You remind yourself, what they say about me says more about them than it ever will about me. You go inward, not to hide, but to regather strength, because the person who tries to humiliate others is not in control. They are leaking control. They are showing you their unprocessed rage, their resentment, their fear. Stoicism is not about smiling through disrespect. It's about holding your form, not shrinking, not begging, not retaliating with the same poison. When you maintain your composure, you hold the mirror up to their tactics. You show everyone in the room that you are not easily broken, that your worth isn't dependent on group laughter or on social comfort. And here's the deeper truth. People who humiliate others publicly often feel invisible privately. They crave power not because they have too much, but because they feel they have none. And so they grasp at it by making someone else feel small. But your dignity is not a bargaining chip. It is not up for auction in a room full of spectators. It is yours, always. In moments like these, remember the teachings of Epictetus. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The reaction that honors your dignity is not silence born from fear, but silence born from sovereignty. You don't engage the insult, you elevate above it. Later, when the time is right, and only if it serves your peace, you can choose to address it calmly, clearly. You might say, that comment wasn't okay, not because I can't take a joke, but because I value respect. Or you might say nothing at all, because sometimes the most stoic move is withdrawal. Not as retreat, but as refusal to participate in your own disrespect. So, what's the ultimate lesson? Don't confuse visibility with value. Just because someone can call attention to your flaws doesn't mean they understand your worth. And just because people laugh doesn't mean they agree. Sometimes laughter is just collective discomfort echoing in a silent room. You are not the punchline. You are the presence. You are not here to be made smaller. You are here to stand grounded, even when others try to shake you. And the more you stay rooted in your own self-respect, the more their attempts at control fall flat. Because no one, not even in front of a crowd, can take your dignity without your permission. In the end, it's not the loudest betrayals that break us. It's the subtle ones, the disregard, the silence, the hidden contempt behind a smile. But you don't have to stay in that performance. You can choose clarity over confusion, boundaries over begging, Dignity over drama. The Stoics didn't teach us to numb our emotions. They taught us to master them. So remember this. Your worth doesn't need to be proven in someone else's presence. It is self-evident. And the moment you stop shrinking for others is the moment you truly start rising for yourself.